Hi, so welcome to my little wood shop. It's a 10 by 10 extra bedroom in a kind of like townhouse unit in Chicago. Um, I might have to pack it up and move it somewhere else soon, so I figured I'd kind of like go around, give a little bit of a kind of demo of how it's evolved over the years, and then have that record for myself. As you might be able to tell, I have a preference for having my kind of tools all available and having a place for all of them. Space is like super premium in here, so I have to make sure that kind of everything is well organized, and I pay special attention to actually cleaning up this space also because it's part of the actual house. So there's a lot of tools behind me, but I'll turn you around and we'll get started in the corner at the door when you come in. All right, so this is the door where I walk in. I have some hooks back here for some of the PPE, so this apron hangs back there. I've also installed a shelf for a bunch of non-woodworking related books, so there's some photography stuff, etc. Just needed a place to shove them. And that's a painting that my friend made with my face on it. Also kind of hard to see, I think. I have this extension cord that runs out the door to an outlet in the hallway. Because this is technically a bedroom, I was tripping the GFCI breaker when I was running one of the sanders. So I had to kind of jerry-rig that. If I go back here, I use this little area for some wood storage. So I have a chair kit back here, and then I use some kind of like virgin sheet material, and then some sacrificial boards that I use for track saw cuts get slotted in back here. And then moving on a little more into the room, there's this stack of 3 boxes. So I found a really good deal on these European sized European plastic boxes. So I have a whole bunch of them. I end up using these as garbage bins, and the fact that there's kind of 3 of them means that I can pack the garbage pretty tight and I don't have to empty it as often. So I really like this system. I do need to like cut up my scraps a little more, but it's quite nice. I actually have a bunch of these Euro boxes all over the place. They are very similar dimensions to the sustainers that Festool makes. So actually most of my storage is in 300 or 400 millimeter widths, so that these boxes can fit and the sustainers can fit. While I'm down here, I also wanted to talk about the floor. So technically this is hardwood floor. I don't know what species. But I didn't want to damage it, and also when I was creating a bunch of sawdust in here, it would get really slippery. And also, I couldn't use hand planes, and I don't want to use a router and I'm slipping around. So I ended up finding this carpet underlayment, which has rubber on the underside, and then the top is this super rough kind of like thing that's supposed to stick to carpet. So I got a big enough piece, I cut it, and I taped it up along the walls, and it's already saved the floor from a few like paint drizzles and a little bit of scratches and dents. And it's working great for grip. Not everyone's a fan of carpet, and it is a little bit more difficult to clean than the hardwood, but it also keeps all the dust in here and it doesn't kind of track into the hallway as much. So as far as like having this in a home, I actually quite like it. And yeah, moving into the room a little bit, I keep a track here. It's just on a little peg that's stuck to the wall. I used to be kind of precious about holes in the wall because we rent, but I've made a few more holes since then. So this is a closet, 2 doors, and then I have my kind of lumber storage up here. This is some shelf or some closet shelving, and it's actually quite strong. It was rated properly for this amount of weight, so I'm not super worried about it, and it's been working really well. As far as this closet goes, these kind of like big MDF blocks are, again, I didn't want to screw it to the door, so I got some aluminum U-channel, and I screwed the MDF to that piece and then hooked it over the door. So this is a really good way to kind of like add a bunch of storage that doesn't damage the doors at all. So I like to design custom 3D mounts for a bunch of the stuff in here. I like having it on the wall, and I find it's nice when I can see it. It's also a fun design challenge to make something that'll like hold it securely, be printable, and then kind of look cool. I try to make every print like somewhat reference the original material and have some kind of clever, fun design features. So like, for example, this angle finder, it's held by a magnet, and the magnet is right behind the knob that I use to actually grab it. So that's, for example. I also, because this door opens, the things kind of tend to jingle. So everything that's here needs to be a little bit more well secured to the wall. So for example, one of the things that I'm kind of proud of here is this ruler. There's a hole, so I could just hang it, but that was really jingly. So instead I put two little prints that can capture the ends, and then this is a little bit bent. So to take it off the wall, I have to or bend it a little more to pull it off, but then it doesn't jingle because it's kind of preloaded there. So in case it wasn't super clear, so I have some themes for both of these doors. So this one is for mostly like measuring tools. So I got all my rulers. There's some exceptions, you know, like this guy, but I thought because it's red and anodized, it looked good on this wall, so that's where I put it. And then obviously that one is for all my Milwaukee power tools. But if there's anything you see here that's kind of interesting to you, I have them all posted, all the files posted. So I'll have them in the description, and you can go check them out for yourself. If you want to print them, they're all free to use. These mounts here I actually bought on Etsy for all of these M12 tools, and this swivel so I can set the direction for whatever the tool wants. And then some of them I had to modify a little bit to take some material off so that the bigger tools fit, and these are not supposed to actually go on it, but I've found that they're pretty good. And then finally I have a little mount here for the M18 battery platform for my only M18 tool, which is that little router that I quite like actually. So I'll move into actually opening the doors now. All right, so as you can see, there's quite a decent amount of space in there, and I use it mostly for storage. So you can see there's some more of those Euro boxes. So these are the thinner ones that are also double the footprint of the garbage bins that I'm using. So at the top, it's all not woodworking related. It's keyboards, mechanical keyboards, a separate hobby. Each and every one of these boxes is on some rails, and so I can pull it in and out. And so all of this side is mostly workshop stuff, and then on this side it's kind of household items. So kind of quickly you got some USB cables, some pharmaceutical supplies like Band-Aids and stuff that I use in here too. And then on this side I have them, I'll list them out quickly. So I have the consumables, so that's tape, wax, zip ties, that kind of thing. And then drilling sockets and tools, so that's a bunch of bits, and then weird kind of like staplers and a soldering iron, that kind of like little tool that I need from time to time. I got some sanding discs in here. This one's got my measuring tool, so well, calipers, extra tape measure. I got a temperature sensor, just kind of like things that I want to have. Clamping, so this is kind of clamping accessories. I have a lot of clamps that come with little knickknacks. I have these like strap clamps to do 4-corner miters, so that they're just kind of get it shoved in here because I don't use them very often. And then here I have some scrap wood, and then here I got some extra kind of consumables. These are like things to apply finish, so like non-woven pads and that kind of thing. Yeah, and then up here, actually, this is my soldering stuff, and then a toolbox with some kind of like non-woodworking tools. So I have some C-clamps and some little pocket knives and stuff. So I don't use that stuff super often, but it's there. Another thing that I quite like in this kind of organization system, because it's broken down, but it's not broken down as much as I guess it could be. And you know, there's a lot of people doing the like Gridfinity bins and that kind of thing. I found my favorite way to store things in here and to have everything really easy to access, but also labeled, is to use plastic bags. So I have 4 different sizes of these little plastic bags that I bought. So this is the smallest one. And so I just use a Sharpie. I write what's inside. And then I find that very convenient to like, you know, for example, there's a fence that comes with a bunch of extra bolts. I'll never know what those bolts are unless I actually label it. So if I write it down on this and then stick it into my parts drawer, then if I ever need to find it, I guess there's a higher likelihood that I'll find it. All right, now in this corner, I have a lumber cart. It's not huge, and I only put really like scrap pieces. Mostly this is not material that I'd actually use for a project. That goes back there near the door. But yeah, so this is my design, but I mean, it's just a lumber cart. It was made from scraps, and it stores actually quite a bit of stuff. All right, so moving up from the lumber cart that's down here, I have the first kind of side of the window. I actually leave this one uncovered just so if I need access to fresh air for some finishing or whatever, that's still there. You can also kind of get a peek at the lighting system in here. So I bought these LED strips on Amazon, and I have 4 going down the whole length, and they have a shit ton of light. And actually it's super nice to not have any shadows, and also actually for filming this has been quite nice. I also made them go all the way to the wall so that they're not kind of like from behind me, and so that the light, I don't cast a shadow on the work. So I almost never need another light source. Sometimes I'll like having like a raking light, but other than that, I don't need like a task light specifically, because these are plenty. All right, and now the main attraction, all these workbenches. So this is 3 identical, almost identical units, all on wheels. These were kind of, you might be able to tell, modeled after the Ron Pock design. So the top is kind of like a fraction of the size of his, but exactly the material I had access to. And then having them in 3 pieces means it's very easy for me, and they're on wheels. It's very easy for me to reconfigure the room if I really need something. And actually they're the perfect right size to fit through that narrow door to get out and maneuver. So I've had to do that once, but I built them in here, and it was a little bit nerve-wracking to see if my calculations were correct. So yeah, they have a MFT style top with a black laminate cover on it. I found this to be super practical. Obviously it gets a little bit damaged when the saw touches it, but it's been super durable. So under here there's kind of like a storage area, so I just use it for like random project bits, and then I store my Bluetooth screwdrivers in here. Other than that, I have this vise. So this is obviously a little bit overbuilt for this kind of workbench, but I wanted to use this vise eventually when I build a kind of actual woodworking bench. So I managed to make a riser that makes the mounting the right distance here, and then I use some TSO power lock, I think, dogs to just mount it here, and it's quite stable. If I push in this direction, it braces against the wall, and then in this direction, it braces against that wall. So even if this is on wheels, I actually have quite a stable platform to do some operations, but obviously it's not quite ideal. And then if I reach down here, I have hooked onto this table, this external, or this router table. So this actually, using again the power lock dogs, gets set up right here, and I can mount my router underneath. And then it's got the fence tracks and then a featherboard track. So I use this for some routing operations. It's not huge, but if I really need a big space, I can also add 3/4 material to this table. And then I have a pretty big surface actually to manipulate the material. And then on this side, I have my shooting board with a little 45-degree thing that doesn't really work. And then the ramp is actually tapered. I have plans for this also. They'll be linked in the description. But yeah, if there's anything in here that you want more information on, please just let me know. And then I got some clamps that I use a lot up here, right there, easy to use. And then these track clamps also right there. All right, so moving on to this wall here. It's pretty fashionable to get French cleats. But I've found that I actually prefer just screwing things to the wall, and obviously because this is drywall, that doesn't really work. So I first screwed in a piece of plywood to the wall, and then I mount everything to it. Obviously it's a little more difficult to change things, but I find that generally things just stay where I put them. And they might move a few times. It's not the end of the world. It does leave scars, I guess, when I move things with the screws, but it's a small price to pay for a very secure and very space efficient way to actually store things on the wall. So yeah, so just starting on this side, I have some kind of like screwdriving and hex keys, and then I have on this side, this is my sharpening setup. So I have a couple stones, the Veritas jig, a strop, and then a coarser stone up here that I didn't think I would need, but I did. This mount is also available in the description if you want to make it yourself out of some 1/4-inch ply. This is a radius jig for my router, and then I have the first of 3 different sections for hammers and striking tools. So these are kind of the round-headed ones. So some of these mounts are pretty fancy, but some of them are very simple. So for example, this one is just a couple generic pegs that I've made, and that use quite a bit actually around here, and that's enough to just hold stuff. And then other ones, like I was saying earlier, I enjoy the act of making them completely custom. So for this specific driver, you actually can't see anything from the front. It just magnetically attaches and fits into all these details in the back. And then up here I have, essentially this is like knickknacks. It's a little hard to reach when I'm actually at the bench and it hurts my back. So I've moved all the critical things down and over there. But yeah, so Festool came out with this kids track saw kit, and I really wanted to make a video about it. But I haven't gotten around to that. But it's very cool and almost fully, well, it doesn't cut, but it like, the saw spins and it makes noise, so it's quite cool. I also have some overflow tape. So this is kind of this yellow tape here is what I use 90% of the time. But then if I need either wider tape or some double-sided tape or whatever, it's probably up there. All right, moving towards the corner a little more again. So this is my little dog house actually is what I called it. So this is where I keep all the kind of MFT style dogs, and then it ends up storing my earmuffs. But yeah, so that's a fun mount that I came up with. And then this one to store my rail square that I use on the table with the sacrificial board over there. And then yeah, so this is the second area with my mallets. So these are the ones with like a nail striking end. And then I got a bunch of pliers here. I have some water in this one. I found that it started to smell moldy, so I put a little bit of isopropyl alcohol in it, and it smells like it, but it doesn't mold anymore, so that's nice. And then I have this other one. This is some tool cleaner. I use this as a sharpening liquid, and then also to clean my saw blades sometimes. And then the last striking tools here, a few marking gauges, what used to be in my apron, if you've seen my previous video, and then some Japanese saws. Up here, this is all the woodworking books that I have, and then my subscription to Find Woodworking. You might be able to see also from this angle the rest of the window. So actually, I like having the window semi-opaque to actually leave some light come in, and so that I can tell what time of day it is. But also this window leads into an alley, and I didn't want people to be able to peer in and just look at all these tools. So I put some plastic tarp material there, and that does just enough to make it so that you can't look in, but I can actually get some light from outside. All right, now for probably the prettiest part of this room, I have this kind of like hand tool display. So I'm pretty picky about what tools actually make it up here. Obviously, if there's wood, brass, and cast iron, it's it's a good candidate. So this workbench is actually an IKEA table, and it was my first workbench, and it kind of felt it cupped because I glued it and it was a big mistake, but I felt bad getting rid of it, and so I thought, oh, what can I do with it? And I figured, screwing it to the wall, actually with a French cleat, so I'll eat my words a little bit there. I use a French cleat to mount things to or big cabinets to the wall. But anyways, so I screwed this to the wall, and I've been kind of like adding all my hand tools to it. So I definitely have too many hand planes. Most of these are new, but the number 4 up there is from my father-in-law's grandfather, I believe, and I restored it, and it's working great with a new blade. So for all of these, I've made a custom mount, and so all of them you push up and you pull out and it comes off, and then obviously you do the opposite to put them back. Some of these mounts are a little more difficult than others. So for example, this shooting plane here has a few different pieces, and I had to catch this edge and that side, but they all kind of function with the same principle. They're all in the description if you're curious. And then some of the other stuff that's not plane shaped, I guess, I have different holders. So, in particular, this mallet is kind of a weird shape, so there's just a shelf. This guy is another mallet. And then my chisels here, they're kind of, I think French fitted is what it's called, into this piece of MDF with some magnets up here. So I just put it back like that. And then the saws here and the rasps are just kind of hanging there. Some of these things are using the pegs that I was talking about earlier, but yeah, so I just store it all here, and it's easy to access. It's right next to where I'm working. All right, so I moved the workbenches that are there out of the way so I can show you this. So all 3 of them have this open hole on the side, and so I use it for kind of like excess sustainers, because I don't like having the tools in the boxes just because it's an extra step to actually take them out. So anyway, so this one I have actually the vacuum in here with the hose and the cable always plugged in, and then on the other side I have my glues and my finishes, so these just kind of pull out, and so these are the same Euro bins that I was talking about earlier, and they fit perfectly. Also, a sustainer would fit the same width. And if you remember when I was talking about the cable that goes outside for that GFCI breaker, so it snakes all around the room and it ends up here in this vacuum, and then I plug in my tools to it. I also have this little pouch here that I mounted to the side. So this is what I used to carry in my apron, I now put here. I just didn't want to have to put the apron on all the time. So this is nice to just have it on hand really easily. All right, and now for the back wall. So this is where I store, I guess, like temporary lumber. So this is a project that I've just started, and then that one down there. So it's a kind of nice blank wall on the bottom. And then on top here, obviously there's all my clamps. So initially I just designed this holder actually for these big Bessie clamps, but turns out I didn't need that many, and I actually really liked having these smaller pump clamps or whatever they're called. So it could store quite a bit of these. One of the favorite things that I've actually done on this clamp rack is write the dimension of every clamp. So this is the max opening. So if I have a piece that I want to clamp that's 400 millimeters, I know exactly which clamps can actually fit it. So up here I store my extra batteries and an air blower that's quite useful to clean things up. And then moving upwards, so this is why I don't need the sustainers out and about, because I decided I wanted everything out and ready to use. So I got a few things that I can't reach up there, but then all my drivers are up here, the jigsaw, the track saw, and then a little circular saw from Milwaukee. And then on the side of this one, I have a few more drilling accessories. I have all my 1/4 inch router bits, and then I have some drills and bits. And then moving over a little more, so this is the second of these, and it's also on a French cleat. Like I was saying, these things I do actually like putting them on French cleats. So that's the Shaper workstation, and then I have a few different tools and a bunch of sanders down here. So I really like having things immediately accessible with all their accessories here. I didn't like digging into the sustainers, and they don't really get that dusty out here. I do have to blow them off, but it's worth the price. Yeah, so one of the reasons why this room feels so cramped is because I also use this as my desk. So this is where I work during the week, and also where I have my personal computer. This takes up a lot of floor space, but already having this whole room to myself is kind of a luxury, so I'll take what I can get. I do use it sometimes to like place stuff, but it gets kind of dusty, and part of the reason why I try to keep it really neat in here. On the walls, I didn't really have anything to put here, so I felt bad throwing out templates, and I like the look of it, so I decided that was a good use of space. I do also have a little bit more storage back here. This is a bunch of laminate that I ended up not using for a project, so I just kind of shoved it back there. So on the topic of keeping things tidy, I have these two things right almost at the entrance of the room. So we have our household vacuum here. I like having it on hand because it makes it more likely for me to actually use it, but almost every time that I'm in here I end up vacuuming after myself, and that really, I mean, with a space this small, it's kind of important to keep it clean. It also makes it so that I don't track the dirt, or well, the sawdust into the house. And this one in particular uses cyclones actually to separate the dust, so there's no filter really that clogs, and I've ran through so many buckets of sawdust, and it's been a fantastic performer, so I highly recommend that one. It's kind of expensive, but because we can use it in our house too, it kind of worked out. And then here I have an air purifier, so I run this thing constantly, and actually this is probably the cleanest air in the house. So this is pretty important in such a small space. And yeah, wrapping up, because we're back at the door. So this is just a kind of a catch-all area that I have. So, there's got some router bits, some drill bits, some machine consumables, which is like jigsaws. I got some paper towels, and then this big cabinet with the rest of my keyboards that I display at the bottom, and then the 3D printer up here. And then just to make sure that I'm actually cleaning the air properly, I have this air quality monitor. All right, so that's it. We've gone all the way around the room. So if there's any kind of like holder or appliance in here that you want more information about, I model most of them in Fusion, and I put the files on my website. So if anyone's interested, you just go get them, and I'm happy to help with any questions. But yeah, appreciate your time, and thanks for stopping by.